Welcome to our third in a series of 5 proposed videos designed to help families with some quick basic information about trying to manage defiant and/or potentially unsafe behaviors as they relate to addictions. In this video in particular, we will look at some social pressures intertwined in our lives that are driving or promoting addictive behaviors. Our previous video on COVID-19 outlined in part and in very basic terms some ways to address issues related to that pandemic. Socially supported addictions are another example of a contemporary but also ongoing problem that some basic understanding and diligent effort should be able to alter. I'm sure it would be a surprise for most people to hear that they are probably addicted to something, probably several things. It may also be a surprise for most people to hear that it is the very society we live in that plays a major part in creating and promoting these problems. Our society encourages addiction and addictive behavior in us all. Perhaps a little background on this will help people understand. First off, it's important to look at a definition of what addiction is. One definition characterizes addiction as the loss of control of a mood-altering substance, activity, or thought process. Addiction is not limited to misusing or abusing a substance. In exactly the same way that a mood-altering substance changes our brain chemistry to reduce stress symptoms we are experiencing, so too can an activity or thought process. All three of these are methods people use for relieving the symptoms of stress and anxiety in our everyday lives, but they do not solve the problems. They just temporarily relieve the symptoms. Stress and anxiety and their associated symptoms are unfortunate side effects of our stress response systems that have gone awry. In most of us anyway, and in some way or another in these modern times. This stress and anxiety in turn is in most cases created by our society, and by extension most of us, our inability to keep up with the rapid changes that have been occurring over the past several decades, even centuries, that are constantly triggering our stress response. Our stress response systems were never meant to be turned on to such high levels all the time. We'll get more to that in the next video when we will talk about the stress response more. Examples of what I'm talking about may range in type, size, and severity, but the constant theme among them all is that neither we nor our society can solve or resolve many of the problems we encounter. So we turn to trying to relieve the symptoms created instead, which can be as varied, severe, and complex as the problems themselves. I'm talking about stressors such as overpopulation, traffic congestion, pollution, climate change, noise, the fast pace of life, financial instability, political instability, multitasking, advertising pressures to buy stuff, overwhelming desires to buy stuff, the paradox of abundance, and well, the list just goes on and on. Currently, for many of you watching this video, there is also the concern over COVID-19 and the concurrent struggle of living in the same house with someone who is addicted. All these things and a multitude of others, big and small, and the anxiety they create in us, lead to stress symptoms due to their sheer numbers and the length of time they trigger our stress response systems. We are always feeling the pressure of stress at unmanageable levels. In these circumstances, we begin to lose our ability to cope. We have developed social conventions to deal with the symptoms, many of which are addictive in scope themselves. The course many people are encouraged to follow is the use, overuse, and abuse of substances, legal and illegal. But this approach is not restricted only to substances. There are any number of activities we get involved in, often to addictive levels of activity and participation. These activities and practices are designed solely to manage and offset stress symptoms. For example, the addiction to fast food many of us are indulging ourselves in for comfort and quick energy hits. We buy things at unprecedented levels of consumption for that hit of retail therapy. We run out of space to keep the things we buy, and then we start hoarding, and then we rent storage space and continue buying. Our governments promote gambling to help you try to win that big one and get out of the rat race. We can buy and consume alcohol at almost every turn, now marijuana in limited amounts. Most people have easy access to the LCBO, beer store, casinos, Tim Hortons, Starbucks. We supersize our fast food, we use cigarettes, buy lottery tickets, we gamble, we get involved in video gaming, pornography, but none of this solves the problems we all face. All of it is just offered up by our society as a sop. to deaden our stress symptoms until we need another hit. And when that isn't working anymore, many people turn to believing it is all just a hoax. We believe we're fine, but become so disconnected from reality that we do not even try to look for any resolutions to the issues. We simply begin to blame everyone else for our own poor choices and behaviors. And most people wonder how our kids get involved in addictive behavior. Well, as you can imagine, they are totally immersed in the society that they live in, as are we all, and take on all the trappings and trimmings available to survive. They see others all around them indulging in addictive behavior. Why shouldn't they? All this pressure takes a toll on everyone. Primarily, there are levels of distrust and paranoia that we live with that erodes relationships, strains family ties, and for far too many brings us to levels of dysfunction as wide in scope as the symptoms themselves. Physical, psychological, psychiatric, social, financial, political, and on and on and on. This brings us to the end of our video. Once again, thank you for taking the time to watch it in the middle of your busy day. I've tried to share some of my thoughts about how society is complicit in the addictions plague that affects us all. Take heart if it seems like an overwhelming task to curb these behaviors, and we will talk more about that in our next video. It is hard, but it's completely doable task and more than worth the effort. As always, remember, if you were supposed to be a superhero in all this, you would have been born with a cape. There will be 2 more videos in this series covering different topics. Keep checking back to see when they are posted. I hope to connect with you all again soon. Take care and take heart.